GM one and all. We are here at the BCard All Hands meeting for December 4th, 2024. And we're going to use this time to sync up on work going on around our org, eliminate blockers, and prioritize the work for the next week. Now, in case you don't know what we do, we help purpose-driven communities use Web3 tooling to generate revenue and engagement. And if you want to know more about that, you can go ahead and click on the YB card right over there. On the live metric side, we're down to $45 in transaction volume in the last week. I'd like to say a little bit that Thanksgiving had to do with it, but to be honest, I don't really know. So we shall see as we go, but that's a low week for us for sure. On the lead metric side, we had 3 weekly transacting users last week, 1 new user. If you look at the dashboard, it'll actually say something like 7. So I went into the data and saw how many are actually new, because Tom and I created a bunch of users to test because of some compliance issues with Transcard, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So we had 1 actual real new user and 10 communities deployed. Team-wide announcements. Sorry, was someone wanting to say something?
Oh no, I did not realize I was unmuted. Hi everybody.
Yeah, Men of Thinker. And you actually reminded me that I forgot to take an attendance. I'll do that right now. Links, Arkiski, Tom is here, Gross is here, Winverse is here, and NF Thinker is here. Nice. All right. On the lag metric side, we already talked about that. All right, team-wide announcements. Flow state donations are still up. So just to show you how quickly this can change, last week we were at 1.5 ETH a month in matching, and now we're at 0.7 ETH a month in matching. So I took a look at what went on, and now Lotto PGF is getting something like 3 ETH a month. So yeah, they are they got a couple more donors, but even bigger than that was that they got a bunch of people to donate higher amounts. So that was pretty interesting. Anyways, as a result, if you haven't donated yet into FlowState, please do. I'm going to be posting it on socials this week too to see if we can get a couple more. Since I've kind of just let that fall to the wayside, and I was like, oh, 1.5 ETH a month, that's not bad. But ultimately, want to get a couple more people donating. So I will push that a little bit on socials this week, and we shall see. And if you haven't donated yet, please consider, or if you need some help on that, feel free to ask me. All right, going down into the milestone perspective, 10 weekly transacting users. So we did have a bunch of compliance issues with Transcard this week. These are issues that had been kind of, I would say, just like put to the side with Transcard because we were waiting on some stuff from them that they hadn't given us. And so it came to a head on Monday when they started, I guess, like they are starting to get a little bit more into, let's say, consumer apps. At least this is the way they described it to us. And so they were kind of looking at like, oh, how does BCard do it? They're like our consumer app, because they had some additional ones who were looking at it. And so they saw and they're like, okay, yeah, this isn't compliant. And so they demanded a bunch of changes on Monday. Luckily, Tom and I were actually kind of ready for these changes because we had started them like, I don't know, I feel like 3 months ago, and then they just kind of dropped the ball, and we were like, okay, well, we'll just leave it the way it is. Sorry, go ahead, Tom. Tom, I can't hear you. I don't know if you're speaking. Yeah, can't hear you, Tom. May have to drop and come back. So oh, here comes Tom. Hey, Tom.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, great. I was going to say, I bet you what happened is we had actually fixed it 3 months ago, but that it turned out to be a weird issue with our test card specifically that was causing us some grief in our testing.
Yeah, that's true. And so now we had a couple of other things that we had to do. Had to do some things quickly, I would say. And so Tom and myself went and did those things, and now we are compliant again, as far as we know. And so that's good. But it took up a bunch of our Monday and Tuesday. So yeah, now we're compliant. I would say that the app is a little bit less user-friendly than it was, but nothing too crazy. And we are, more secure, which is always great. And they are working on some additional UI UX improvements, so we shall see how that goes. On the lifecycle email, these are complete now. So we now have 2, 4, 7, and 30-day emails. There are a couple of small things on the design side that I would like to fix on them, but they are shippable. I ship them out. But ultimately, we're still going to have to see if they help us get people through that initial hump. And then we're also asking for feedback in the 7 and 30-day emails. And so we shall see what kind of feedback that we're getting. We're also still manually sending our monthly emails. So Tom sent those out yesterday for the month of November. And that's fine. We have like a task for our monthly chores that we have to do, including our rewards reconciliation. When we get our in-app voting going, we actually will probably reduce some of the monthly chores that we have to do. And when we feel good about the monthly email statements, we may add some additional functionality, just allowing people to unsubscribe if they want, and then we will potentially automate those as well. So for now, it's kind of in a state where we're happy with it. And so those are the lifecycle emails. And I need to do a little bit more work on our analytics to see to kind of view easily the impact it's making. But yeah, this is kind of an output of some user tests that we had done a couple months ago. So that's good that these are out the door now. On the in-app voting side, so Tom built a proof of concept, and you can see it on staging, and there is a user spec out on Discord. So take a look. I think we're going to be iterating on this. And as well, I think another thing that is really important to note about the in-app voting is that in-app voting is just a tool, right? And so it's going to depend how we use it, whether or not it is engaging or not. So our ultimate goal is not just to create in-app voting. Our ultimate goal is to engage users. And in engaging users in the community, I think we know from being in DAOs that voting can be a tool, can be a method, if applied correctly, to engage people, right? It kind of shows that someone has a stake in the organization. It kind of creates that aha moment where you get a token for contributing, and that token can be used to have a say in the future of the organization. That's really powerful. And so we need to not just create the in-app voting, but create the experience around in-app voting. And that's the thing that's going to take a little bit more iteration. So while the user spec I posted and the POC Tom posted, they're a good start. I think that if you look at the history of how we've gone through, our onboarding experience and our rewards, we're gonna have to go through something similar with the in-app voting, where we're actually speaking to users and seeing how we can actually make it something that's of value, how we can actually create that emotion in the users, that community feeling that we're trying to create, that engagement, that feeling that they're part of something, that they're part of something bigger, and that empowerment that they can actually do something about it. So again, it's going to take some iteration, but we're starting to put the bones in place right now. And so take a look. I would love to get your perspective. And actually, we're going to talk about it a little bit further down as we're looking at more specifics. Now on the user analytics side, I kind of pushed this to the side to get the emails out of the way and to get the compliance issues out of the way. But the dashboard and database, I definitely noticed some inconsistencies looking at the raw data that we have and the dashboard. And I do know at least one thing that I need to fix, which is to add dates on all the things in the database. So I'll be working on that, hopefully in the next week, just get it out the door, although I've said that before, so we shall see. Anything else on the 10 weekly transacting users? All right. Moving down to 10 new users a week. So this growth dashboard, I would say, along with in-app voting, it is kind of one of the bigger things on my mind right now. So we'll never really get to 10 weekly transacting users if we don't have enough people coming in at the top of the funnel. And we've done some work on positioning and messaging, but we don't have a framework that we can use to kind of see if our experiments are a success. And so what we really need to do is add a little bit more visibility and technology to allow us to see if the things that we're saying are resonating. And this is even like not just the things that we're saying are resonating, it also matters the channel that you're putting it in and the way that you're saying it. So for instance, right now, while I definitely see that there's engagement on things like gross audiograms, I don't actually know if that's helping us in the big picture. And so that's what this growth dashboard is about. It's really about, like, let's say, operationalizing the work that we're doing around our positioning and messaging so that we can try to, instead of kind of shooting in the dark, have like a more systematic view of how we're getting new users. And I think that this is going to be important as well because it'll also feed into our community funnel. We can start to see, hey, when we run a campaign with communities, how is that? How are we doing there? What kind of communities are getting us better results and these kinds of different things. So that's what our growth dashboard is about. I'm going to be working on it this week. The intent is really to have a framework to allow us to experiment on growth marketing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sounds like a good plan to me. You got to be able to see it to know it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think certain things like in-app voting as well will help us. Like we can even message some of those things. We can like run experiments with some of our communities and do case studies. Those kinds of things will help us too. But it all works better if we have a kind of method or a kind of way to view how our efforts are doing. Right, multiple user bug still to fix. One of the things I should mention as well is that it may be that we kind of, for like the BCard app, allow people to enter without getting a card. So there's some we may let's just put it this way. We may update the onboarding process for the app because there's like a lot of, let's say, grudge in there as we were kind of iterating on it. So we may do a refactor or a rewrite of that, also to allow us to pull new people in without them having to have a card or being in the US. This is especially important for stuff like in-app voting because it may be that users can get community tokens elsewhere, not just through BCard, but like let's imagine like a higher like a community like Hire, which already has a lot of token distribution, or a community like Degen, which has a lot of token distribution. And if we get in-app voting there, we want people worldwide to be able to use that kind of thing. Anyways, all this to say that the multiple user bug, we do need to fix it, and it might be part of a larger onboarding refactor. And on social media posting, this is going on. This is ongoing. I think like the way that we've been working, Drost, with the audiograms has been working pretty well. Like I can post things completely from my phone, which is nice. So I can do it while I'm on transit or anything like that. So the flow that we got seems to be working pretty well.
Great.
I think, yeah, I think like as I look into the growth dashboard, I'll probably start to think about like let's say the tone and messages that I want to do for each channel. But for now, I'm kind of just sending the same things to every channel with like a little bit different text for each. But yeah, working on that. Anything else that anyone wants to call out for 10 new users a week? All right, let's go down to 10 high quality communities. So C3, excuse me, we have all the assets, but I think they're going to try to redo the card. So we're just waiting on feedback from them. OMF, they're waiting on in-app voting. They're really excited about in-app voting. And in the funnel, Drost and Rainis are working on filling this. I actually listened to a podcast the other day about a community. Their whole thing is they're down in Miami and they're all about saving the coral reefs. And the things that this person was saying, they were like, oh, we don't want as many big donors. We want kind of like smaller donors who are just kind of like, doing even $5 a month is better than one person doing like $500 in one go. And so that's what they were kind of looking at. It could work really well for us. Anyways, that's all this to say that I may reach out to them this week with a cold email. Do you want to give an update on Drost on, well, I mean, we'll get into it in the task perspective, but did you get a chance to look at the giving block?
Yeah, I've started looking at a little bit and building a table. I mean, there's not a lot in there yet, but so putting in categories of the types of organizations, and then they've got where you can filter the list by whether they accept crypto donations. So obviously I'm filtering it by crypto donations, and then I'm kind of hand selecting in there, and I'm just starting. I mean, if you look at the list, there's only like 3 or 4 in there right now because I'm just starting to build it. So yeah, just kind of handpicking and looking to see which sound like they might be more amenable,
Cool.
because it's a long
I think it's a good way to
list.
do it. Yeah, exactly. Cool. I did take a look at Rainis's list. I would say that Rainis's list is really like crypto native as well. So that's fine, I guess. But like, it's like, for instance, he has Gitcoin at the top of his list, which is fine, right? Like, if we can make a deal with Gitcoin, that's interesting. But like, I guess I just don't know if the value is going to be there for those organizations, especially after some of our previous tests with communities so far. It feels like for the crypto community, the biggest value to them is I get token, right? And it doesn't seem to be a resilient value because we can't actually give a lot of token right now for what we're doing. So all this to say that it's something that we're probably going to I mean, I'll speak to Reynes about it, but ultimately, I think, if he wants to try to make a deal, it's not that difficult for us to take that community and add them to our app and run a co-branding campaign with them. That's totally something we can do. And I don't know if that segment is necessarily playing to our strengths yet.
Yeah, and like when I said on the giving block where where you can select those that accept crypto donations, they're not crypto orient orgs. They're orgs that are willing to accept crypto. And so I'm not sure if the giving block, does some kind of thing where they convert the crypto donations into fiat for those orgs. Or if they're accepting those directly. But anyway, so no, they're not. From what my impression is on at least looking through spot checking the list, they have nothing to do with crypto. They're just organizations that happen to accept crypto.
Yeah, and I think about like and I think that's actually a good thing.
Yeah, I do too.
Sorry, not Rain's first. I think that's where we haven't really explored as much, and it's kind of where we want to explore. Like, the two segments I'm looking at are like small communities and communities, and communities that are kind of crypto curious. And so I think that, like, you're hitting that second one, Drost, like those communities that are crypto curious, and I think like we're not gonna. I think, like, especially for crypto native orgs, like, everyone has their own on-chain voting structure, whether they're using Tally or Agora or Gitcoin uses their own thing. Since it's like for that crypto savvy audience, they're like the value is going to be, hey, all of the different voting tools in the app, we aggregate them all, and guess what? There are a ton of other apps that are doing this. We're focusing on creating a solution that could work and trying to attract the crypto curious audience rather than the crypto native audience, with the hope that the crypto native audience can also use the tool that we're using as well, right? And so, I think that there's a slightly different value that we're looking at here, and we have to be able to not only understand the value of the audience, but also match that to what we're actually capable of producing and what we're actually able to succeed at. So we'll see. I mean, I have my doubts about being able to succeed with like really crypto native communities or crypto heavy communities, but I think that if we create an engaging mechanic, that could work for anyone, right? And they don't necessarily need to worry about which tool is underneath it all. Just some thoughts on product development and how we're sourcing our communities.
Well, because it's not novel for crypto native communities. It's novel for non-crypto native.
Exactly. And we just have to surface that novelty, surface that kind of emotion that we're trying to create. And if we can do that, then we'll be able to actually serve both crypto natives and crypto curious. All right. On the task perspective side, let's get into this. In Asana, going down here. So the lifecycle emails, I'm actually going to mark this as complete now. All the things in here are done. Anything else you think that we should do before I mark this as complete, Tom?
No, I think sounds that I think it's good for me.
One thing I'll say is, let's say, so Gradient did a little bit of work on this. So let's say compensate Gradient hours worth of work. And I'll put this into the accounting inbox. Proposal. And I will just write myself a little note. Create proposal for gradient. Okay, great. And so I'll just take it off of our list and leave it into the accounting. Or rather, I'll just mark it as complete, and the accounting can kind of see it still. Complete and ship NFT display for patrons. So if you're a patron and you log into the BCard app and you have connected your wallet that has your patron NFT in it, you will now see it in the BCard app. And so this is kind of like, I would say, early days for us in creating these kinds of things. But ultimately, again, as we're creating that community feeling, as we're creating that idea of appreciation, these badges could be pretty useful. And so the plan is, and it's just not the highest priority right now, but the plan is to, in the onboarding flow for the card, give the user an NFT, allow them to share it, and the idea will be like maybe it's some sort of messaging that's interesting for that kind of person. Hey, I'm vampire attacking the TradFi system. Here's my NFT to prove it, kind of thing. Yeah, so this is I would say, like, right now by itself, it doesn't do a lot, but it is the basis for something bigger. So I'll mark that as complete. All right. I did apply to join the next Octant Epoch. We shall see how that works. I did review CryptoDad's competitive analysis, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about that tomorrow if he's able to come to the ops meet. The BCard one-pager, I didn't get any feedback on this, but it's been up here for a couple weeks now, so I guess I will close it. Has anyone actually had a chance to read the BCard one-pager?
No, I haven't actually read through that, to be honest. Where's the link to it again? Is it in Asana there?
I'll stick it into the chat here, but I'll also put it into the user chat, and just say, BCard, take a look. Any and all feedback appreciated. And if it's if anyone takes a look, even just like a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that would be really useful to me. But I'll stick it I'll leave it in the done for now, and hopefully by next week, if I don't get any feedback, I'll just close it. So for all these communities, I kind of need to figure out how we're going to deal with this. I think that there's some additional campaigns we could run, some top of funnel, bottom of funnel stuff that we could do. But I'm just going to leave it here for now because I don't want to deal with it just quite yet. November monthly chores, this is actually done. The only thing I would say is that I haven't topped up the EOA yet. I think that there's some bank that needs to go in there. So I'll leave it up here and hopefully finish it today. All right, in-app voting. Tom, do you want to give an update on this?
Yeah, I guess at the start of the week, I was working on principally the code for integrating the read from snapshot proposals and write out votes so that our app can both display and allow users to interact with snapshot using their embedded Privy wallet. This should be able to happen seamlessly in the back end without them having to sign any transactions. Right now, still in beta testing, I've got voting methods available for connected wallets and embedded wallets, but we're hoping to consolidate that down to being as simple and straightforward for users as possible in the long run.
All right, awesome. And so I did an initial spec as well. I don't think it's like done, but I wanted to get feedback sooner rather than later. Here, I'll just pop it up real quick, so we can take a quick peek at it. So basically, backwards. Okay, so basically the name, the title of the vote, like a very short 200 character description with a link to see the full proposal, which would open in a new window inside of our app. And so this is kind of just like what the new window looks like in iOS. And then for every vote, so there are some that have like multiple votes, there would be a button here. Now, the one thing that doesn't work here, and so this is something else we would need to look at, is that specifically for there are different kinds of UI for different kinds of voting. So, for instance, for weighted voting, you are allowed to put a weight on each of the potential things. So instead of having a button, you would probably have like for each option have like a text box beside it, right? And so I think, and I guess like this is for you, Tom. Maybe we need to
Yes.
see.
Snapshot actually has
votes.
about eight different options in terms of voting capabilities that you're able to put in. So for sure, the simple voting choice option is the first one that we're selecting. So, but yeah, there's probably I think about 8 different options to work with in terms of what Snapshot offers in terms of what they can be publishing.
Yeah, and does it allow us to see which kind of vote it is, so we can like adjust our UI?
Yes, it definitely does.
Okay, cool.
The readout is pretty good. In order to get enough API access to read for many users simultaneously, we need an API key, which I've applied for. But for testing purposes, right now, it definitely will work. We can get all that data.
All right. And so the last part here is that it says when the vote ends, and so it ends in 1 day. Just kind of like an idea of urgency here. This is kind of cribbed directly off the Snapshot site here. Cast your vote. The one thing I wondered is, do we actually need the snapshot number here? Maybe for debugging, it's good. I mean, ultimately, I think it's just like, especially for the kind of user that we're going after, maybe not necessary. But yeah, we can see. And so that's like the simple kind of vote screen. And then once you've voted, there's a little check mark beside it. And it says you can still see the full proposal. You can see the results if they're there. If they're not there, we'd have to say like, if they're shielded or something, we could just show that they're shielded in some way. But again, this is very similar to the snapshot UI, and it ends in a day. And then 2 days passed, ended 1 day ago. The idea being here that, hey, how long are we actually keeping this in the feed? You definitely do want to know. I think you want to know what the results are for a vote that you did. Do we want to have a button here which shows like dismiss or something like that? That's the kind of question that I had. Or do we just want to like take it away after a couple days? Yeah.
Probably setting an auto clear for something like the duration equal to the duration of the snapshot vote would make some sense. So if it was a longer vote, it would stick around for longer afterwards. Kind of makes sense to me. But yet dismissing it would be possible. It's just that's a trackable thing that I guess we'd have to maintain for each user. So.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could just do it on like the local storage. But anyways, that's something that like that kind of implementation detail we can think about a little bit later. And then I had a bunch of questions here which we can talk about tomorrow at the product meeting. But another question is, can we automatically sign people in to the snapshot here? And if we can, maybe that's something that we would want to do, because these are other things that we want to do as well for groups like Bankless Academy. If we want to log people in and automatically get their NFT and then show it on our badges, right? So this is something that we may want to do as well. Anyways, that's kind of the initial cut that I was looking at for the user experience. Definitely a lot of work that needs to be done here. Another thing I was thinking about is if we're making it like a first class, like if we are adjusting the app in the way that I said, that you don't need necessarily a card to get in, would it make sense to have a whole new screen, like a vote screen? But the only problem with this is that, well, it's not the only problem, but one of the issues with this is if you're part of multiple communities and you see votes, you probably want to see votes from multiple communities. And the BCard app's just not really built for that right now, and it doesn't really make sense to kind of cram that in, which is why there are some thoughts on another community tool that we could use using some of the building blocks that we've already built here. Anyways, this is the simplest thing that we can do, and it's not necessarily going to be enough to get us the engagement that we want. But the idea is in that BCard app, you are part of a community, and you have a BCard for a community, and you're able to kind of do things as a result of that. But in that vote screen, we probably could show whatever kind of we could show votes for whatever's in your wallet as well, right? Like, so if you're bank, it shows bank. If you're Higher, it shows higher. Any other feedback on the in-app voting? Again, there's going to be quite a bit of iteration on this. User spec, and I'll just stick a there we go. All right. Get people to donate on Flow State. As I said before, I'm going to post this on socials. So get this going a little bit more, and hopefully we'll have some more donators. Again, not worrying about it too much because I'd rather get our own setup going, but those donations would be really helpful as well. Okay. Cash flow for October and November. How's this going, Christy?
Okay, so I did update some numbers for like I finished off the October and put in November numbers. I don't really have anything that's in presentable form. I guess like one piece of data that I took out of there is that we did see the spending on the card increase in November, about 64.5%, which I think is good. Although, like the first numbers we're getting in from December are kind of showing a downward trend, but that's probably because the spending is still kind of lumpy in the month. But also the spending was distributed across more users. So that's a trend to look out for and to see if the email engagement is helping to drive that.
Yeah, I think it's accurate. So if you look at the numbers here, just to see what Arcos is showing, the thing that worries me is the amount loaded, right? Like I haven't seen an amount loaded at 0 in like for a 7-day amount loaded in a long time, and so yeah, like and amount spent is 20, so quite low. And if you look at the 30-day amount loaded, like it's almost like the exact amount that was loaded was spent, right? Which is kind of surprising to me. And then if you see in the all-time, we still have like the amount loaded, we still have some, let's call it fuel in the tank so that people could spend, up to another 3,500 here. But yeah, definitely see a downward trend. And then again, on the November side, agree that like, I think that maybe we just reminded people that they had a card and then they spent on it with the email update. So that might not be a bad thing. But yeah, we don't have I wouldn't necessarily say that that's, I didn't look at the data for that, and I think that you actually were looking at the data.
Yeah, and yeah, so I think it's going to be interesting to see like how December ends up trending on that front, because if it was it people spending money that they had forgotten that they left on the card, is it people actually figuring out that, oh, I can use this to spend money, and it works pretty well. Yeah, and I think like the other thing is that it's we can probably see next week whether the card load was an aberration because of Thanksgiving Day week, because I'm sure that a lot of people had a lot of other things on their mind or weren't even like at home or whatever in the US last week. So maybe it gets back on trend this week.
Yes, we shall see. Thanksgiving could have been a factor. All right, thanks for that update. Anything else to say, Arcusy?
No, I think that's it.
All right. So I did talk to Zooty Bear. She will try to get her thoughts out in writing in the next week. And then I'll like kind of synthesize my thoughts and hers, and then we can share it at this meet. User analytics side, I did mention already that you can see that there's some discrepancies here. Well, it turns out there's also discrepancies like even with the amount spent actually, which is kind of weird between the data. So you can see like the amount spent here is like the same, but then when I actually look in the data, it looks like that amount spent should actually be something more like 40. which is not a huge difference, right? But yeah, when I look at it, it looks different in the data. So I want to understand why that is, and we'll see. All right. Going down a little bit, list of targets based on crypto donations. One of the things I wanted to add here, actually, that I should probably add here is growth dashboard. We have been making top of funnel efforts, but we would like to have a more systematic, experimental perspective on this. Success criteria, map out the growth funnel for our two audiences, community members and community leaders. Figure out the gaps in our data, fill those gaps, try to make the growth dashboard as automated as possible so we don't have to do a lot of work to see the efforts of our campaigns. All right, so this is really like top of funnel kind of stuff, which I would say is probably our weakness right now. Part of that is our messaging and our growth framework, and part of that is the product itself, right? So that's what we're working on here. I'll say that it's probably even more important than the in-app voting, but I'll leave it here for now. All right, so list of targets based on this. I will just copy and paste what you said, unless there's other things that you want to say on this, Drost.
Nothing to add at the moment. Excuse me.
Great. Rainus, list of targets. Okay. I reviewed this quickly. It's a pretty crypto heavy list. Not a bad thing necessarily, except I wonder if our product will work for this segment. We have been mainly targeting to other segments, smaller communities, and crypto curious communities. The value that we're able to produce may not be enough for the crypto native audience yet. All right, how we can work together. Hero, I know Hero's like been off for Thanksgiving. Any updates on this? See if he gets us some updates there. And contributor rewards and payroll. How's this going, Arcusty?
So I didn't do too much on that because I was kind of focusing on the month stuff, the monthly reporting stuff. But I would be prepared to talk about it tomorrow in the ops meeting.
Cool. Sounds good. All right. Yeah, and I have like a few outstanding tasks actually related to payroll too, which I have on my list for today. Create proposal for gradient. Get coffee structure. Cool. Sounds good. And NF Thinker, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the proposals and bounties. Oh no, you have. Okay, I see now. Okay, great. Awesome. I will tag the multi-sig when I need you to throw a vote in there. But hopefully we'll get a transaction out pretty soon. Anything else anyone's working on that's not on this list? No? All right. Let's get back into what did we ship last week. So Tom and I shipped some fixes for the Transcard compliance issues, which was really great. Tom and I did the monthly chores, which actually we're getting faster at. You know, it's we did it yesterday, so that was the third. So Looks like we're getting faster at this, which is great. Tom made a proof of concept for in-app voting, and I made a spec. Go ahead and test those out on staging if you like. You are going to need some banked on OP. So if you've gotten any bank from our app, it is on OP, and you just need it in your embedded wallet. Drost and Winverse created content for our socials, and I posted on X, LinkedIn, and Farcaster. I pushed a multi-sig of Black Flag DAO to get some transactions done for the Black Flag Endowment Fund. In fact, I should put that in here because I've been working on it as part of this. I would say it's pretty low priority. Black Flag Endowment Fund. Does everyone know what this is? I'll fill this in a little bit later. But ultimately, an endowment fund, it's like an on-chain endowment fund. That's another way for us to create revenue and engagement for our communities. And I'm testing it out for in real life events at first for Black Flag DAO, formerly Bankless DAO. Tom, I saw you unmuted there. Did you have something to say?
I was just going to say, I think that's the in real life events initiative that you're working on. But we're just saying that.
Yes, that's exactly right. And it's something like we can use here in BCard. It can be like one of the options. There's a card, there's a merch store, there's in-app voting, there's an endowment fund. So that's something that we can potentially use. So didn't get all the transactions that I wanted, but there's still more to go, and I'm poking the multi-sig on this. I reviewed CryptoDad's competitor matrix and added info for BCard. I paid Bobo for the website. He said he needed the money sooner rather than later, so I went ahead and sent it to him. I also applied for Octant funding, so hopefully we will get into the 6th epoch. That would be really great. We shall see. I updated the onboarding email flow to have 2, 4, 7, and 30-day emails, and updated the linked Pally surveys to help us collect data. Anything else anyone want produce that they want to put on here? All right. So we have time for discussion now. Not a ton of time, I guess, but one of the things that I kind of hinted at earlier today is that it looks like our BCard app, I've been kind of struggling with, hey, if we want to add some new features, well, not everyone is in the United States, but the only people who can use the BCard currently are in the United States. So since our app is actually gated by, like we actually ask users to put in their social security number and stuff like that, not available to worldwide people. So we've been toying with the idea of creating like another product, which is using all of the same kind of code, or opening up our product so that you can kind of get in without a card or both. And so we're gonna kind of have to see how this works. But one of the things that we've been talking to smaller communities about is they've been having trouble with their kind of community funnel, and it's also stuff that they don't want to do. For instance, I Speak Nerd, he has a tabletop community, and he hates coordination. That's not what he wants to do. He just wants to play games. He hates looking for sponsors. He hates looking for revenue. He hates doing all of this stuff. He just wants to create a community to play games. And so the question started to become, when you join a community, what specific things do you want to see? Because if we can create that for our communities, if anyone can kind of create a community and they're just working on community building rather than doing a bunch of chores that they don't want to do, setting up a snapshot, getting in-app voting going, like deploying a token, having a website, all these kinds of things. If we can do all of that, if we can reduce the effort that it takes to start a small community, that could be really useful. That we could create a bunch more purpose-driven communities that way. So the discussion item today is what, you're all in the DAO space. You've all probably joined multiple communities. What are some of the things that you want to see when you join a community? When you are kind of like joining a community for the first time, what are the specific things that you might look at? So an example I had here is a calendar of events. So when you join the BCard community on Discord, you can actually see at the top that there are 3 events coming. These are the kinds of things I'm talking about. What other things?
What kinds of opportunities are there to participate? Or what groups might I be interested in that I don't know are available? Surfacing the interest areas of the org. if we're trying to facilitate community, maybe part of, and you're talking about IRL stuff and not giving away necessarily people's locations, but maybe a way to indicate a proximity, for people that maybe want to do IRL stuff. It's like, oh, there's some other people in my community. There's 10 people in my community within a 20-mile radius. Maybe we could get together for a drink.
Yeah.
And put it on our BCard, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
Yeah,
play
that's a really
games,
good point too.
like the tabletop gaming, how often have you, I don't know, I've been in this situation where, you're, it's middle of the week or whatever. Maybe it's, I don't know, short notice kind of thing. Anything, at least I find that when I want to get together with people, it's like, oh yeah, it'd be great. Like 3 weeks from Tuesday. It's like, no, I'm talking about like this afternoon or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or like in an hour when I have some free time. And it would be really cool and it kind of blends that Web 2 initial location based stuff. I'm trying to remember, was it Foursquare?
Yeah, there was
That
Foursquare
would,
for sure.
yeah, that would help you connect with friends on short notice to get together for a drink or something.
Oh, I don't know if that was Foursquare. I'm not sure though. I never really used Foursquare.
Okay,
But
I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, I'm just riffing on ways to make it useful. How to find birds of a feather, right?
Exactly. Opportunities to participate. I'll put this in finding people who have the same interest as you in the community. So birds of a feather. Yeah. So
One of the things I really liked about Coordinate was the visual aspect of the connections between people. And you could see the flow. You could see that, and the width of the line between people, or between, which would show the commitment, not necessarily commitment level, but you could see if the particular avatar was receiving. It's almost like you're receiving love or receiving energy flow from, that's it. To me, it looked like energy flows, like you're receiving all this energy flow from other entities. And it's like, yeah, there was something really cool about that gave a visual indication of how much individuals in the community were valued. Except this was it blended. I kind of like to maybe get a little away from the monetary side of it, but this blended the monetary and the actual perceived contribution of individuals in a visual way. And I thought that was really cool. And what the other thing that really stuck out to me is I showed that to couple of non-crypto people back when we were using Coordinate a lot. And I remember the response. The response was, that looks like it's from the future. I really remember that. And I just thought it was really cool. It's like, it was like an aha without even knowing what it was.
Yeah, I was just going to comment that kind of reminded me, because flow state kind of shows the same thing. I mean, that's like something
that's it.
that
Where's it show that?
There, I don't have the link in front, but there's that picture that shows like the projects and like that whole, like how things are kind of related. I mean, that's definitely something that you get from being on chain. Like you have the ability to do that and to show those connections. Like and because Dross was just kind of reminded, because I had some limited experience with Coordinate back in the past, and that was that was something that kind of resonated with me as well at that time. Like
Nice. It's really cool. And you can move them too. Wow. Very interesting. Cool. Yeah, so
yeah,
it's very similar.
I'm not really sure how you could like take like people's wallet information, card usage, or stuff like that, and turn it into to something. But I mean, we do there's probably some possibilities there, but it might require some brainstorming.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very cool. Cool. Yeah, I agree that that's a very interesting way to look at things, and I almost wonder, like, if it gives you kind of an overview of what the community looks like at this moment in time right now, right? Yeah. Hmm. Anything else?
Well, I guess the comment that I was going to make is that so kind of what I look for is like maybe like a regular kind of touch point from the community, but like something that's not reminds me that the community is there, but doesn't like overburden you with like oh, now I have to read this like 5 minute long email or something to see what's going on. But it's nice to have like a kind of sort of regular reminder that, oh yeah, well, this happened in sort of a not so intrusive way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you don't get that, then like you tend to kind of forget that stuff is going on.
About this, you forget stuff is going on. Yeah, this is a really good point, and I think like some communities use Discord notifications, some communities use emails or something like that. Do you think that there's like, uh, um, do you think that there is a touch point that you like the most? You're muted. Okay, there you are.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's my favorite, but I mean, the short email update is kind of works, but I mean that could be delivered another, in other ways. I'm sort of
I think the
not.
short email update is maybe the most resilient, but maybe
Mhm.
not the most. Like I think like it would be best if it just showed up on my Farcaster feed for me. I don't like when people put announcements on Discord. Like I mute most of my announcements on Discord, even if it's a community I care about, because I find people overuse it.
Yeah. 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 I mean, that's like and it's especially if you're involved in more than one thing, then if you start getting like a bunch of uh, notifications on your phone or watch, you just kind of either have to shut them off or you just ignore them, or
Yeah,
they kind of just get lost.
yeah, that's a good point. I'll bring up again that like, well, not again, but like, um, an overview of what the community is for, i.e., purpose. I think that that's really important. Um, it's a quick way to see if you vibe with the community. So, purpose, values. I think that that's really important. Other things that you expect to see, or you would want to see when you are kind of deciding whether or not to join a community. I'll put as well activity. We had something like that before. Like, are there multiple people talking, chatting, hanging out, contributing? I think that that's something that I look for too. I don't want to join a community of one usually. I want to join like a community with at least a couple people already. Anything else that other people are thinking about?
Well,
Maybe
what's
like
community about? Are they, are they a social club? Are they subject matter? Are they? I wasn't sure where
yeah,
you were headed with that.
yeah, I think that's just to see like what the community's for. What's the community about? What is the community about? Another thing I would put onto here is like history in some way. What has the community done? Have they had some success? I think that's kind of interesting as well.
Yeah, and vibe. You can pick up a vibe in chats. Or I know not a lot of people go back and listen to audio. I mean, that's a pretty low percentage, at least from the stats I've seen from BDAO and our where we've hosted stuff. But yeah, picking up the vibe of a place before you hop in.
Yeah,
It's like when you stick your
absolutely.
head into a bar before you go in and sit down and commit to ordering a drink. It's like you want to kind of sense what's going on. Do people, you look around and are people having a good time? Are they laughing at tables? Is it, what's going on? What's the lighting like? Are the chairs comfortable? They have a good wine selection. I don't know.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you.
I'm trying to equate it with a physical place. What are the things that you look for when you're in a physical place, a new physical place where you don't know people?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it, actually. And I think actually it's a good segue into just like the. I mean, we're kind of over time, anyways, but yeah, I think that what we're talking about right now are the fundamental building blocks of community. Blockchain is a new technology, but what it means to be a community does not really change. All that really changes with blockchain is that we can potentially have new tools to help facilitate these building blocks of community. And I think that that's really important to note. We're not trying to necessarily redefine what a community is. We are trying to augment communities so that they can be stronger. Again, the communities that are successful right now, the organizations that are successful right now, they have become successful either by playing to the role of these kind of top-down organizations, and so where they really have to worry about money over everything else. And what we're trying to do is something different. We're trying to create a breeding ground for communities that are able to survive despite the fact that they're putting purpose above profit. And the way that we're going to be able to do that is by taking these fundamental building blocks of community and putting them together in a potentially novel way using blockchain technology. This is something that we can do. Looking at these smaller communities as well, communities like Tabletop with I Speak Nerd, looking at these smaller communities is going to help us as well, because if we start with these smaller communities, we can help make it easier for anyone to start a community. If we solve the problems for these small communities, it does create that breeding ground that I was talking about. And so ultimately, we need to look at a couple of different ends. We have these small communities that we're looking at. We have these crypto curious communities that we're looking at. But in the end, if we want to create fertile ground for these smaller communities to grow, we're going to need to solve their problems. And to do that, we need to deconstruct what it means to build a successful community. And just because there's a community that has been successful, purpose-driven perhaps, but using kind of these tools of these kind of capitalistic tools, doesn't mean that that's the way that we're going to be able to build a community of the future. So we need to take it back to what it means to be a community, back to the fundamental building blocks, back to first principles for communities, and then rebuild them over and over again. And hopefully, at the end, we will create some tools that will allow anyone to kind of have a playbook and push forth their purpose. Again, we are enabling purpose. That's what we're trying to do here at BCard. And so taking a few minutes to just think about what it is that makes you attracted to a community, what it is that makes you intrigued, and what makes you stick around? What are the things that you need when you're joining community? Every single person in this room is actually an expert at that because you've been around this space for long enough to understand what you need to know. So even if you're an expert at nothing else, which I doubt, you're an expert at this. Use that expertise to help others. That's what I'm urging you to do. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you being here. I really appreciate you contributing. I think that it's through these chats that we're going to kind of develop the product that needs to be built. We are manifesting this next generation institution, these next generation communities, just by being here and contributing. So thanks a lot. I appreciate you all.
Thank you,
Alex.
sir.
Thanks.
Have a great
Thank
week.
you. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Cheers, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.